report, and it's, why am I not getting the time here?
Okay.
6:42.
Okay. I just realized I wasn't recording and now I am. So,
Okay.
okay. Staff stuff. There's a lot going on in the city right now that's super time consuming and good. Lots in sustainability. I'm in the middle of the solar project, which is taking up nearly all of my time. I remember Erica from Fitchburg saying to me once that she spent the better part of the year pretty much exclusively working on getting solar on those buildings, and that she worked almost full time just getting those projects off the ground. And I thought, surely not. And yes, it indeed is not simple. Um, there's a lot to do in the background with the bidding process, all kinds of documentations and legal reviews and issues, and working with the design engineer, and now working with the bidding process with contractors and answering lots of questions, and then working interdepartmentally in the city with this project. We've never done solar, and so this is a massive, steep learning curve, more than I expected actually, for how to coordinate building inspection, public works, the building facilities, sustainability planning to get this done. It's not straightforward where you can say, I want solar and let's get some bids for these 3 buildings and then pick someone. It's because of the state statutes, we have to completely separate the design side from the construction side. But that poses a problem with how not a problem, but it's a challenge, because the solar industry doesn't really work that way. It's the solar companies who really do a lot of the design when they bid a project. So it's been challenging to separate those and meet all the requirements. So we're sort of right in the middle of that right now, like deciding what we need to do and what things are missing from our bid docs. We may have to push the bid opening back a week or two. We haven't decided yet. So it's kind of up in the air, but it's really like it takes hours of meetings and phone calls with multiple entities every single day. So it's a bit stressful at the moment. And then last week I wrote a battery storage grant to put battery storage at the police department. And I worked with HGA Engineering, which is a local firm. They helped me write the grant and would be the design portion of that project if we were to receive the grant from the State Office of Energy Innovation. And that was like a 28-page grant, so there were like multiple all-nighters with that. So I'm really like maxed out on just the actual project management. Takes a lot of time for these projects, but they're really significant and big. And if we can do these, then I think it'll pave the way for future solar in the city. And just understanding the workflow. So much of sustainability isn't, we want the city to do this, now do it. Like the details are in like, how does public works actually work together with planning in the process? And that takes a lot of time and meetings and not understanding whose responsibilities lie where, and changing minds to do things differently, and when you don't even know how to do it. So I think it's great. And I mean, I'm really excited about doing the work because we're laying the groundwork. We're asking questions we've never asked. We're thinking about reworking how we work together. And as laborious as that is, I think it'll set up a future of more streamlined projects and more interdepartmental cohesion on sustainability. So it's a super important process. It's just super time consuming. So in addition to those things, there's an equity stakeholder mapping training that I've arranged through the UW Population Institute and their match program, which is basically a lot of different public health groups in the state are working together to talk about race relations and how public health and environmental conditions intersect with public health in communities, and how to talk about those things in the community. And so the city employees are going to do a training with public health this Friday for 2 hours to learn about all the groups, in Middleton and the larger region who are in the space, what these groups do, how they interact, and how you approach these groups, and the narrative and the framing you use to start talking about these public health and sustainability issues, and how you would, your narrative is going to be different when you speak to the BIPOC community, and it's more listening and finding what their priorities are, and then, or when you talk to council, which is a different lens for how to discuss these things. So we're going to have some trainings on that, and that'll also intersect and help with our LEED certification, which is the next big thing. As soon as I get the solar bid a bit more, get it going, then I'm just going to need to really focus on the LEED certification. I'm getting an extension for LEED for another few months. I think it'll actually be an extension for a year, but I only want to extend the LEED certification for 3 or 4 months. There's a lot of data that we still need to collect and a lot of write-ups we still need to do in order to submit for certification. And I believe that the certification is not the end all. I think that actually the things we're doing because of LEED and the process we're going through is the real meat of the benefit you get from it. But we still do need to complete our grant requirement of actually certifying. So that's going to be really time consuming over the next 2 or 3 months for the planning staff and me. I think ultimately it will give us good information and a way to package that to show our successes, how we stack up against other towns, and where we fall short when you compare our city to other cities. So those are some of the big things. And then the other things on my plate, which I have very little time, it seems like, to work on, is I'm a part of a collaboration group in Green Tier Legacy Communities, and we have several meetings a month where we discuss funding and collaboration, and we have an annual member meeting. We're working on different collaborations with workforce development, all around sustainability and climate change. And then I'm a part of the Yahara Compact along with Dick Lathrop, which is a bit of a standstill right now, where I think the scientists are doing their thing on the side while the rest of us present kind of a snapshot of who we are as partners. And I need to prepare a presentation for that. The comprehensive plan, it will be where that stands right now is there's a plan commission meeting tomorrow, I believe. Is it the 26th? Yeah. Where they, I believe it's tomorrow, where they will vote on whether to accept the plan or not. And then the council will set a public hearing at the committee of the whole, which is kind of a special meeting that's being held this coming Saturday between Plan Commission and Council. They do it once a year. They go over kind of important topics you need to spend more time discussing. And one of them will be setting the hearing for the final vote in Council for the comp plan, which has to be 30 days out. So I think the comp plan will be this final voted on in March, like March 5th or the first Tuesday in March. And there will be a public hearing as part of that. So, people can speak at the council meeting, and then council will vote whether they want things to go back to any committee or whether they vote to accept the plan. And I would just say that the plan isn't perfect. It needs, it'll be edited on a yearly basis. But I think the longer we hold off on implementing it or getting it approved, I think we should. I recommend that the plan is eventually approved, and then we can work on improving it from year to year. But there are more chances, I guess. There's one last chance to speak up in March, and the Plan Commission meeting might lend some more information if you attend that tomorrow. The other things, last things are just small bits of work that I'm trying to get to, like the salt reduction information and working on promoting the MG&E shared solar. I think the reason that the MG&E shared solar that hasn't been super prioritized is that it's not that it's not prioritized, it's just that I simply haven't had a second to do it. I think it's really important, so I'm going to try to put together what I have this week and do a post at least about it. They do feel like they'll be able to sell the rest of the shares, and I know they want a waiting list, which I understand because it promotes new developments elsewhere. But we do take every opportunity to talk about it in our many public forums that we're constantly speaking at. So it's not something that's ever been on the back burner. It's included in every report, every share out we ever do. So I just want you to know it's not something we've been quiet about, I guess, as a city. And I think that's all I'll say for now. We can talk more during the work plan conversation.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. And we'll have some questions for Kelly, but I just want to note Kelly did get into the comprehensive plan 2021 follow-up, and I was going to ask that we move that item up to before the work plan discussion anyway, because I feel like a lot of the work plan comes from that comprehensive plan. So in your comments or questions for Kelly, feel free to share your reaction, if any, if you attended the Plan Commission meeting that took place earlier this month with the public hearing on the comprehensive plan. Kelly, I had one question for you, and that was the plan will be edited, comp plan will be edited on a yearly basis. As soon as we know what the time frame is for that review process to take place, let's make sure that gets enshrined in our calendar so that we're aware of it a few months in advance and can plan for that. Anybody have questions for Kelly?
Lisa, you said you didn't assign a timekeeper. I did set a timer. Do you want me to, during this discussions, do you want me to jump up and down, or do you want me to, how would you like me to handle timekeeping if you'd like me to?
Thank you, Spencer, for volunteering to be the timekeeper. That's great. If you would, like 5 minutes before, I was going to tell Kelly, it's almost time to wrap up. It sounded like she was, so I didn't jump in. But if you want to, like 5 minutes before the work plan discussion is supposed to end, and same thing with the LED light bulb discussion, just give us a heads up. We got 5 minutes for Daphne, but more like 3 minutes since she's got less time. So
perfect, I'll do it.
Okay, Dick.
I had a question on the shared solar. Are we promoting any use of that through Middleton households, and or are we just kind of passively just keeping track of it?
We always talk about that there's shares available for the public to purchase and why it's important for our energy goals.
You say we, what, are you putting out on websites and any kind of announcements that this is available, or are you just talking about it in a meeting, or what do you when you say we are talking about it?
I'm saying we as if I'm speaking for the city. When I speak to Green Tier, when I speak to the Sustainability Leadership Collaborative, when I speak to churches, universities, all of which I've done in the last 2 or 3 months, when I make presentations to
Okay, are we doing anything to let neighborhoods, associations and things like that know that this is available, and that it would be working towards our community's carbon neutral goals for 2050?
I haven't reached out to neighborhood associations. Maybe it'd be helpful if the committee could come up with like a list of 6 specific people to reach out to. I would like some guidance on what would satisfy, outreach for the MG&E shares thing. Abby and I both promote it everywhere we speak, always. we haven't done like a huge event where it's like a rally for shared solar. You know, we were talking about it before COVID, but you know, it's something we could do in the future, but probably not till the end of the summer at the earliest if it was in person.
Well, I just like to say, I mean, I don't know all the social media outlets that we use, but clearly the neighborhood associations and whatever, if we could just put blasts out about there are unused shared solar options, which would help Middleton, city of Middleton work towards its 2050 carbon neutral goals for the community. I just feel like it's low hanging fruit and we should be promoting it actively, because otherwise people in Madison elsewhere will use up the shared solar and we won't get credit for it.
Dick, I think Nextdoor is like, you know, that app, the Nextdoor app. I know there's a city
Yeah.
account. I think there's a police department account. I think that might be a good platform. I know some of the associations aren't very well organized, but I think as far as Nextdoor might be a great place to post it. And anybody member, we can probably each post it into our own respective areas of it. But also if we have the city side, it'd be great too.
And we have
I
done
mean-
that. So we have posted on Nextdoor, and we have posted multiple times on the city website in the past. I think it'd be something good to put on like a social media calendar, like, you know, at least once a month or every 3 weeks, you do a post like, hey, you know, we've talked to our partners MG&E and there's, you know, 25%, you know, there's 600 shares left available or something, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some kind of-
I've tried getting the word out on, and I've talked to this committee before about, you know, the temptation to want to say something like Hellbox just to get people's attention, because they don't pay attention. You know, there will be like 50 comments. There was some damage done to a trail in Middleton Hills by some enterprising young mountain bikers. And it had like, I think 70 comments by the time I stopped paying attention. And then when I posted about Salt Week, I thought, okay, well, people are always posting lost dogs. So I put a title I thought was a little too tongue in cheek, but I said salty dogs. and I still only got like two or three. I thought the dog owners and the drinkers might pick up on that and read it, but it's hard to get that information out there. But I think this is a good conversation to have when we talk about the work plan, because we have some opportunities to beef up our public information activities, and certainly spreading the word about shared solar is one of those. But does anybody have, excuse me, any comments or questions specifically about Kelly's staff report and the activities she mentioned?
The one quick one that comes to mind is just clarifying the sequence of meetings that are coming up related to the comp plan, and just time, date, and how do we want to speak into that or participate in that process?
Okay, Kelly?
I don't believe there's public comment at Plan Commission, so I think the next opportunity to speak would be at the public hearing that council sets, and hopefully they'll set that date this coming Saturday at the Committee of the Whole meeting. I believe the Committee of the Whole meeting is open to the public, but it's not a public forum to speak at, I think.
So the March council meeting is our next opportunity, final opportunity, really, unless they decide to send it back.
Yeah, and I should also clarify that at this point, I can't make policy changes or add actions unless I'm directed to do so by Plan Commission. Plan Commission receives all public comments, all, you know, they listened at the public hearing when people spoke, and they did speak, and then Plan Commission decides, okay, we want staff to follow up on these items. Like they wanted us to incorporate the Friends of Pheasant Ranch Conservancy comments. And so we did so. But if they do not instruct us to add anything in on the airport at this stage, we can't just make edits on a Tuesday, you know, because we got a public comment via email. It has to be through a formal process driven by Plan Commission.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, and I think that this wraps up also our comprehensive plan 2021 follow-up. I'll just mention I did attend the Plan Commission hearing. It was very interesting to hear how well organized the airport opposition groups are. And I understand their concerns, and actually it crossed my mind as I read through the comp plan draft that for a city that wants to be sustainable, it seems a little inconsistent to have an airport, but probably not a battle worth fighting at this time. So let's move on to talk about the work plan discussion. As I mentioned last time.
I'm sorry,
maybe-
Lisa, just to clarify, I mean, the work plan, I mean, the comprehensive plan agenda, we were just finishing staff comments and questions. And did you intend then to say that we're combining those two items?
Yes,
plan-
I'm sorry, I had said that earlier, Kermit, at the end of Kelly's.
I heard you say you wanted to move it up from where it was on the agenda at item number 7 to be after the staff report, but it wasn't clear that we were starting that conversation.
Oh, my apologies. So unless there's an objection, I think it makes sense to have that conversation
Yeah.
after Kelly's update on the sequence of events for the comp plan and
Right.
before we talk about the work plan. So does anybody have comments specifically about maybe their attendance at the Plan Commission hearing or
Right.
their review of the comp plan?
And I have something, but Dick, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have, I guess, one question about the, all the comments we got back from the Water Resources Commission. Were some really good ones in there that I'm wondering if they got fully incorporated into the new comprehensive plan. I have not read through the newer version of it, and we had asked after Lisa and I and a couple others, Kelly, I guess it was you, had worked on it. We had asked the Water Resources Commission to comment on it, and they had a lot of really good things. So just trying to get an idea if that has been incorporated.
They
those
were
comments.
it was fully incorporated. Everything that they said, we put it in word for word.
Good.
Great. Good to hear. Okay, Kermit?
I was at the public hearing for the Plan Commission, and then I hung out for an extended time after the public comments, and I just have perhaps a couple of observations, and then just a sense that there might be some lessons or some strategic thinking we need to do related to that. One, I was struck by, I mean, it's sadly too well documented and too common, the NIMBY reaction. Not in my backyard. It seemed like most of the Plan Commission time was consumed with concerns like, I don't want this here. And so I just raise it because for sustainability to happen, we need infill development. For infill development, we're going to be putting things in places where it's like, there wasn't something like that there before. And so I'm just freshly sensitized to the challenge that represents from participating in that hearing and listening to that meeting. The other thing, perhaps to some extent, it kind of connects with how are we going to communicate, how are we going to engage people on an amount of time basis. There was more time spent talking about sidewalks and whether we should put sidewalks in and what kind of comprehensive plan should be set up for sidewalks, which, okay, yeah, it's an issue, but the planet's going to burn, people. Why are we, that's, it just seemed like the price tags were shuffled and things that really don't don't matter in the long run. We're just consuming a disproportionate amount of the conversation. And again, I raise that just, okay, what can we or should we do about that? How can we shift the conversation so that we're looking at the bigger picture, bigger impact items?
Sure. I think that's a good observation, Kermit. And that is the challenge, right? To help to balance, what people's immediate needs and concerns are with what we think as a community, as a city, we should be focusing on, but also to recognize that those concerns, like the sidewalks, are near and dear to people's hearts. I found that for those of you who weren't on it, that Kermit just describes as people not wanting it there, is the development of a multifamily building in a residential neighborhood on a lot that is at the beginning of a cul-de-sac. And I too found that conversation very disturbing, because I felt like it was more than just, we don't want someone to develop that land. It was, we don't want someone developing that land for low-income families to come and move here.
It was
And
just a duplex too.
I thought it was 4. I think it was 4.
Two duplexes,
Two duplexes.
my understanding.
Yeah, and I'm actually thinking about attending tomorrow just to make but Kelly just said they won't have public comments, so maybe I won't. But it was very if no one came out and said they didn't want people not like them in their neighborhood, but it came across that way, and it just was, yeah, it presented the challenge that we face, both in terms of our equity goals and also our sustainability goals. So good observation, Kermit. Dick.
Yeah, one of the issues that I'm concerned about is that we had proposed in the comprehensive plan that we needed to figure out ways to store and hold and infiltrate more water upstream. I've had a conversation with Kelly in the last few weeks about this is a big challenge, because people in the upstream towns like Springfield and town of Middleton feel like, well, what opportunities we squandered through poor land use, because we allowed all kinds of development in our areas that we could maybe reclaim as wetlands. And basically the upstream towns are feeling like, why should it be our problem, because you squandered all your opportunities downstream. And so I think there's going to be huge challenges as we write a sustainability plan, recognizing the things that we've already identified in the comprehensive plan. Kelly, got any reaction to that?
Yeah, well, I don't maybe have anything intelligent to say, but we talk about it in the city all the time. Everyone understands the challenge of it. I think we're going to have to, I feel like, in my personal opinion, we're going to have to balance telling people outside of the city and north of town what we're willing to give up, or what radical things we're willing to do as a city. So if we're going to ask people north of the city to do radical things with their land, then I feel like we have to balance that with saying we're going to do this too. But in the city, it's not as easy as saying, like, we're going to institute green infrastructure everywhere. Like, I think Warren and Kim Potter on water resources said, in order to do that, you would need to set targets. Something like, if we do X, we could meet this threshold of water infiltration, so you would know what goal you have. It wouldn't just be piecemealing green infrastructure and then spending loads of money and maybe only having a 0.001 benefit from that of water infiltration. We're going to have to decide, what can the city do? What are the different levels of strategies we could employ when we have those conversations north of the city. But there really are very few. They've done soil tests and analyses of the land, and there's very few opportunities north of the city, from what I understand. It's a limited opportunity.
Katie?
Thank you. Yeah, Kelly is right. We're really landlocked where we are. We've got the lake on one side. We have the towns on the other sides of us in the city of Middleton and Madison. And so I think to some degree, we have to rely on what County Executive Parisi is doing. And he is, he's doing some really great land purchases to kind of help everybody out. So I think it's worth noting that he is aware of this and is trying to help. And then as a sidebar, don't write this in a newspaper, but like, I do believe that the towns are realizing they can kind of hold our feet to the fire on some stuff. And they're trying. And so take a lot of the discussion with a grain of salt and do your research before you form an opinion on some of it. Am I right about that, Kelly? Am I speaking out of school here?
I don't really know much about that because I'm not involved in those conversations with the towns, but I mean, just from a public relations standpoint, I think we have to have a good relationship with the towns to work on the sustainability issues, regardless of who's right or wrong in any one given topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you for that insight, Katie. Appreciate that. Okay. Are we ready to move on then to talk about the work plan? We obviously won't be able to finalize it tonight, but I do want to walk everybody through to give you a sense of where this came from. And I can assure you it did not come from my brain. It came from all of the work and all of the documents and information sources, like the survey and past committee meeting minutes. If it's definitely not something that's intended to be read on a single 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. I printed mine on 4 and didn't have time to tape it together. But the idea is to help rein us in. Because if you look at the whole thing, and Kelly, you can show the whole thing, just to give a sense of the breadth, like how big this committee's charge is and the work that you all have been doing, long before I came aboard. So if you look at this document, everything that you see in orange is coming from the draft of the comprehensive plan that especially our Green City chapter. Everything that's in blue comes from the Sustainable City Plan update. Those I put on the side of the goals because these are the vision statements or the goals that were articulated in those plans. And I tried to impose on them the same categories that were in the Sustainable City Plan. So economy, food, fair trade, energy, land use, and so forth. And my thought was, we need to pin down what our goals are, what's in the plans. To me, let's make use of that. Why write the plan if we're not going to stick with those goals, right? So it seems like the goals should be as they are stated in those plans. Those goals will then drive the actions that we feel need to be undertaken. And our constraints on our time and Kelly's time, because as I put in the intro, I don't see these actions as all being, for Kelly to do. This is for those of us who want to devote the time and have the opportunity to devote the time to moving some of these projects forward so that it's not a burden on Kelly. So the goals will drive the actions that we think need to be undertaken, and then we will decide which ones are feasible and which ones would we prioritize for calendar year 2021. And anything that we don't think we can take on in 2021, we need to defer to next year. So that is my hope for this work plan. I also included, our work in 2020, what we accomplished, and then a schedule for, and this is what Kelly and I had drafted something like this back in August. and Kelly and I had used the format to try to drive, okay, what do we need to talk about when, you know, sequencing the different monthly meetings that we would have. When I look at this group, I think about us, not to be flippant, but I think about us like Ocean's 11, right? Or any kind of ensemble cast where there's a task that needs to be done. Usually it's a crime, but not in our case. And everybody brings their own skills, their own special set of skills to the adventure. And so I know, for instance, you know, Daphne's our school person, right? And I know Deb has done a ton of work on the Bird City designation, and Dick's the water person, and Kermit is the climate change person. So we all have something we can bring to this endeavor. And I think of my role as being, you know, cleanup batter, or somebody who tries to make sure everything's organized into a comprehensive whole. I had talked to Kelly about next steps for the sustainable city plan. I know she's got a full plate. My plate is soon to be emptied, not totally, but somewhat. So I'm retiring at the end of February. So starting in March, I'll have more time to devote to committee work. And so I volunteered to help Kelly with the rewriting of the, or, you know, the finalizing, the polishing of the sustainable city plan. So that's something that I would love to do. I also would very much enjoy doing something like Sustainable You. Spencer, you mentioned the composting and the rain barrel idea, and Dick was talking about spreading the word about shared solar. You know, I wasn't in Middleton when you all were doing the Green Thursdays, but I think something, especially now in the time of COVID, when everybody's familiar with Zoom and comfortable with it, gives us an opportunity to do something kind of like what the Saltwise people did 2 weeks ago, or last week, whenever it was, with the 2 weeks ago, I guess, with the afternoon or the lunchtime webinars. I don't think I'd cluster them all in a week. I think it worked for Salt Week, but I could see doing like a first Friday or a final Friday event. Maybe not Fridays, but something short, compact enough to not take up too much people's time, but also get the word out about some important sustainability steps that people can take. And maybe we could use, I'm forgetting who put it together, but you know, I'm sure there are groups in the area besides the one I can't remember who have, you know, the things you can do to make your own home more sustainable. And I think we could cover things like solar, you know, the solar buy, and also for those who aren't in a position to buy solar for their home, take advantage of the MG&E solar shares. When it's time for gardening season to begin, we could talk about composting and water, you know, summer storms, good opportunity to talk about how to retain water on your property, either through devices like a rain barrel or landscaping like a rain garden. So those two things for me are what I could imagine myself focusing on. But now I'd like to hear from the rest of the members about some of the things that they would elevate in terms of the priorities, and then also some of the things they might want to work on themselves.
Just real quick clarification question though, as far as the goals you have on this challenging array of information. As I've been looking at it more closely, you're saying that on the right-hand side of the blue box in the Center for Sustainability Committee are goals, and the goals are broken down by the sustainability plan that we were reviewing through the end of last year. Yes?
Those are the categories, the water,
Okay.
waste recovery,
Right.
transportation.
I'm not, greenhouse gases was a separate category, and I'm not seeing that in the breakdown.
Well, I think that might be because, Kermit, we didn't have, well, I'll have to go back and look at the the plan itself, but I don't think we had a vision statement.
There was,
I might not have had the most recent marked up
Yeah.
draft.
I think it was added in the 2017 rework or redraft. And then my subcommittee or subgroup embellished and developed that. So if you went all the way back to the 2010 edition, then I could understand why you don't have it. But it was part of the 2017 redraft, which never was finalized to my knowledge, and was the base upon which I thought most of us were building and doing our review and development work.
Okay, well, I can tell you I wouldn't have used the 2010 one. I think I may have used the 2017 version that was marked up by, I forget the consultant. And
Right.
all I remember
I
is
think
that
that was Slipstream
yeah,
that did
and
that.
there were some new ones, and I can't remember what the others were that were recommended to be added, but at the time, in the draft I was looking at least, did not have the vision statement incorporated. So I didn't have anything to work with there, but that's a
Okay.
good point.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, it was definitely, I don't recall specifically whether there was a vision statement per se for the 2017 edition, but it definitely was there as part of the work product that we generated. Bobo and myself, Carol Phelps, and Sherry Gruder. So
Okay.
I would value and think that it's important to highlight that as a part of our goal set.
Okay, and Kelly, can you take an action item to share the most recent complete single draft that reflects all the input from the subgroups of the sustainable city plan? Does somebody have a timer going, Spencer? Go ahead,
You're
Dick.
muted, Spencer.
Sorry, I do. 19 minutes left.
Go ahead, Dick.
Yeah. So this is the work plan for our committee, right?
Well, this is the draft of the work
Kelly,
plan.
okay, draft, but
Yeah.
we're trying to develop a work plan for our committee, specifically emphasizing what we would do for this next year, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I personally feel that the city needs an updated sustainability plan, having worked a little bit on sections of the comprehensive plan on things that were sustainability related, and then getting into what our sustainability plan actually has. I feel, at least in the areas that I know something about, I thought it was pretty inadequate. However, I'm wondering if I would rather, as a person on the committee, be reacting to something that, say, a consultant or but even better, a seasoned environmental science writer we could hire by subcontract, maybe with part of our monies from this year and part of our monies from next year. I'm actually lamenting that we wasted some money from last year, but that's gone. But to start over and write a plan just seems overwhelming. So that being said, I'm looking at, well, what can we do? And I think we have specific projects like the light bulb thing we're going to be talking about, other things that we should try to do that move towards our overall goals of sustainability, if we can agree on them. But as far as this broader work plan, I looked at your thing, and the first thing I went into, I started fibrillating. But once I got into looking at it more carefully, I mean, you have a lot of good stuff here. I just feel like it's so much to ask our committee to be taking on all these items. But if we could just identify 2 or 3 action items that we as individuals would help promote, like the light bulb thing. And then as a committee, we would promote getting the sustainability plan written by somebody where we would set overall goals and major ideas, and then we could react to it by editing it and reviewing it. That's kind of where I'm at.
Those are good comments, Dick, and I'm glad, I mean, what you described is actually what I see for this plan. And that's why it's important to know that the large amount of detail in here and the large number of goals and potential actions, that's all, I mean, this is just a drawing, if you will, of what the sustainability committee is already into, is already involved in, has already been working on. And I think when you see it all on one sheet of paper, it's overwhelming. And that's exactly what I wanted to convey once I saw this. It was, you know, this is a lot of work. This is a small committee. Kelly's one person, you know, and so we need to lift out of this huge array like you said, the 2 or 3 things that we as individuals would prioritize and would want to do on our own or working with a colleague. And so that's why, you know, again, thinking in terms of, you know, your Ocean's 11 area of expertise, you know, what would you bring to this? What would you pick from the list of activities that you absolutely, you know, if we finish 2021 and this particular task isn't done, you'd be disappointed. And there are probably some that I missed. I don't think I did enough. I may have either misunderstood what the green team was, or just completely left out the school, Middleton High School resolution. So Daphne, my apologies about that. That's something I would be disappointed in if we weren't able to get that resolution before the school board and passed. As to the sustainable city plan, I'm happy to have the committee spend some of our money to hire a consultant to do that. And that's something that Kelly had suggested. But I mean, I will tell you, I would not, when I say I would be happy to help Kelly with writing the plan, I would do that as part of my volunteer work. But as I put it to Kelly, having written strategic plans, transportation plans, emergency preparedness plans, all kinds of plans in my career, I feel like I could take the sustainable city plan that is marked up the way it is right now and condense it and polish it and turn it into a great plan. But if the committee members don't want to, if you want to hire someone who is actually charging for consulting instead of capable of charging for consulting, that's fine. I've got other things I can devote my time to. I can work on the sustainable you idea instead.
Lisa, I think it'd be great if you worked on that. Obviously, that's down the road, not too far. Congratulations. But I do look, when we attempted to hire Slipstream last time, I think what everybody needs to also remember is the amount of work it takes the committee to get them to that point also. Lisa would have the advantage of actually having been in all the conversations. When we had the Slipstream come in, they don't actually know, like, it takes meeting after meeting to get them up to speed with where we're at. So I say, I like this idea. And if I'm going to just run real quick while I have the mic for a second, my couple things on here, I think the telling our story is hugely important. It doesn't, I think it helps get us more money, helps promote us, helps get more people involved in it. So I would like to work on that, telling our story. I also like the thought of the zoning, working the zoning. I know there's a lot more regulations, stuff that we may not be able to overcome, but I do like the idea of trying to legislate, for lack of better words, changes and be able to make those system-wide. So those would be 2 things I'd like to work on.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. Deb?
Being that the clock is ticking and I don't Well, it is ticking tonight too, but I'm talking about the future. In terms of climate change, um, I really think every year we ought to have some priority in there to reduce energy use in the city. And I see the city as the government portion, the school district, and then people in the community, you know, and homes and businesses. So I kind of see that as three different areas that are kind of interconnected. But being that we have goals set, and the first one is the city is prioritizing energy efficiency and conservation projects, you know, if we could get some of those low hanging fruit, and then that's the LED project that's coming up that we're going to talk about. But if each year, you know, we at least have one of our priorities to working on that resolution to keep getting us closer and closer to our goals, citywide and community-wide. I think that's really important. The other thing that I think is important that I would like to be involved in is the bird collision, or trying to reduce bird collisions on buildings. That's a huge one too. And so I would like to work on that as well.
Great. Thanks, Deb. That's an excellent point about, yeah, I mean, one of our key goals should be driving down electricity use and energy use. Daphne.
I just have two quick things. I don't know where, I think you might have sent this to everybody, but I didn't get that, like, the thing you have on the screen. But I was wondering if the single-use plastics was on there, because I remember Mrs. Hilliard and a few others and I were working on like a single-use plastics like tax or like a fee, but I don't know where that is now. And also for what you said earlier about like putting money for the resolution to find like the baseline or like audit, like we already did that. That's fine, but thanks.
Okay, thank you, Daphne.
And
Permit?
Lisa, just a comment to clarify the energy issue. Two people you included mentioned we want to reduce energy use, and there is an important caveat in terms of the overall direction of the energy economy that is envisioned to reach a low fossil fuel, low carbon emission future, and that is beneficial electrification. And so we need to be careful to not set goals that set us up for tripping us up. And so if we say, oh, we want to see electrical usage go down, is not the accurate statement. We may want and do want electrical usage to go up as other fossil fuel uses and applications go down. And so I just want to qualify that we want to keep it simple in our statements, but we also want to apply appropriate qualifications. And beneficial electrification is a major issue which will produce counterintuitive changes in energy consumption, which are consistent with our overall goals of reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Thank you for that clarification. That's important. Any other comments? Chris, I see your hand raised.
So I've actually been doing a little bit of background research on some of the website and recycling guide opportunities. So I'd like to take a focus on looking at how we can possibly update the sustainability website, the recycling center website, and the revised recycling guide. That's a lot, but I at least want to take a look at what we can do with the city. I've been including Kelly in that, and I've been working, communicating with Drew at the city who works on the website. So just trying to understand what our capabilities and possibilities are there.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, Chris. Dick?
Yeah, I wanted to just react to what Deb was saying about the three different goals for our community. And I'm pretty confident we're going to be in good shape well before our 2035 or 2030 and 2040 goals for Middleton government. But I just feel like it should be our number one priority to keep chipping away at everything we possibly can, including energy efficiency, the light bulbs, the solar, shared solar. I live in Stonefield, and I don't see one solar panel on any house in the entire community or the neighborhood here, and it's pretty large. And I just feel like that this is a really important thing. If we're going to meet our 2050 goal for the entire city to go this way, we're going to need to be putting this front and center of everything we can think of to start promoting it and doing things for it. Because if we don't emphasize this, we'll get to a point by 2030, well, the city's in pretty good shape, city government, but what have we done for the community?
Mhm.
And one of the biggest things, and I asked a question actually at the Pheasant Branch Conservancy's Facebook thing they had with Parisi and Kathy Kuntz about how are we going to get everybody that's in this community, including businesses, but all the homes that are using fossil natural gas for heat, how are we going to get all that converted over to something that's renewable energy? And that's going to be a huge goal. And I just think that we have to really put that on the front burner and put our mind on it and our committee's effort to keep that constantly pressed on that, or it'll end up 2030 and we won't have done anything and we're going to fall short.
Mhm.
So
Let's-
Dick, do you want to you want your pet project for this year to be the solar group buy and solar shares?
Well, I mean, the solar shares thing is already there. It's just a matter of promoting it.
Promoting it,
But
right. But that's a
I
big,
think we should be doing that kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I want to
Well-
work with people to know more about it, but I think it's an important goal and objective for our committee.
It's an important nut to crack. And I feel the same way when I walk around Middleton Hills. I live just north of it, and I'm shocked that there are so few houses. I mean, houses that seem like they would be well suited for it, given lack of tree cover. And I was thinking to myself, like, what could I do once COVID beyond us? Or could I print off some little flyers at the right time when we know the solar group buy options and just drop them off at houses, like leaflet houses, to say, you look perfect for solar and call me, and I'll tell you about my experience and how it has benefited me. And how
And you'll
you-
give them a personal grant to do it, huh?
and what?
You'll give them a personal grant to do it, right?
Yeah. I don't think Middleton Hills, they need grants to do it. But yeah, no, I mean, it really is. It seems like a good opportunity to share with our neighbors. I have like 5 or 6 people in the neighborhood here who have solar. Katie, I see your hand is raised. And then Daphne, I think your hand is still up from before.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's
That's okay. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to make a quick observation about some of the folks using fuel oil still to heat their home. My house is almost 100 years old, and my initial way of fueling it was the fuel oil. And I still see a couple of my neighbors have a big oil truck pull up every once in a while. And I can say that I don't have that anymore, but my observation is that some of those folks are the ones who cannot afford to switch everything over. And so that's just a really tricky spot for them to be in, and for, and I would love to figure out how to have a program that could help them get out from under that. Because I also know that when those trucks come, they hand over a really hefty bill and you're stuck without it. So that's just an observation.
Thank you.
And maybe some programs exist and it would be great to help them understand where they could get help.
We'll go to Kermit next, and then we can wrap up. Like I said, I don't expect us to finalize this tonight. I think I want everyone to take a look at it, and some folks have reported what they would like to work on, and I can make adjustments to it for next time. And those of you who still want to give it some more thought, you can share your ideas with me through email. But we'll go to Kermit next, and then we'll move on to the LED light bulb
2
discussion.
minutes and left. I'm sorry, I was.
That's
I
okay.
was gonna-
Thanks.
Yeah, this is kind of a process comment in terms of how we might achieve some of these goals, but triggered in part by Dick's and Lisa's observations regarding what you're seeing in the community. And that's the challenge. Everybody is doing that. I don't see anything different here. And so getting that one person, that first person to put up a solar array in Middleton Hills, all of a sudden people look up and go, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And if you really want to get geeky talking about how you influence and change behavior, I mean, Kathy Kuntz could really dive into the weeds even deeper than I can, but that's all. You thought you graduated from high school. All the world is high school. It's peer pressure. It's what are other people doing? Gee, I don't want to be the odd one out. And if you can get somebody to be the odd one out, that starts to tip the conversation and tip the scales. So I was just stirred to share that, because I think, again, that goes back to the marketing question and communication question.
Mhm.
The other thing, talking about solar shares, having that come up again and again, one of my major frustrations with solar shares is, and I think I've shared it before, so I'll try to keep this brief, is like, we want the utilities to do renewable energy, clean energy across the board. We don't want it to be limited to people who have extra money to drop down 500, 800 bucks, whatever it is, a share, plus the higher utility bill. Everybody should be getting clean energy. And so there's something about solar shares where it's like, I don't think MG&E is stepping up to the plate as vigorously as we want them to. And they're not swinging nearly as hard as we want them to get this to happen. So to what extent we as a committee and we as a city may have a role in influencing decisions, maybe somehow pushing on the PSC to move in that direction, would have a better impact than setting up another solar array that we expect people to pay extra for right off the bat. But say, it's available. You just plug into your wall outlet and you have solar energy. That's the goal we need to have. Or, I mean, I don't want to limit it to solar, but clean energy.
Duly noted. Yeah, or like the green power tomorrow thing.
Which has some similar issues, but yeah, because you're
Maybe
paying extra
we
for
can-
something that should be the default.
Maybe one of our meetings, we can have that as a presentation. And you mentioned Kathy Kuntz, Kelly, don't we have that? Aren't we going to have a presentation soon?
Yeah, next month, Kathy and Joe Parisi are attending our meeting to talk about the Dane County Climate Action Plan. And I've alerted them to the fact that some people in the committee are interested in biodigesters and how we can use RNG in our community as a kind of bridge fuel. But we can also ask questions about these other things.
Okay, great. I'm excited about that. And then we'll also put the work plan, continued discussion of the work plan on the agenda for next time. And by the way, Kelly, we are supposed to have a standing agenda item. I think I forgot to mention that last time you and I spoke, but we should have a standing agenda item for things that we want to talk about next time. Let's move on to the LED light bulb dispersal discussion. Deb and Dick.
Okay, well, I guess I'll start out. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, because we didn't vote on this, basically what happened is when Kermit made the suggestion that we buy LED bulbs and just distributing them at Mom. And by the way, Lisa, how did that distribution go? Did you?
You know
find
what,
out.
the distribution went beautifully and I completely forgot to follow up with them afterwards to find out how it went on their end. So I'll take an action item to do that.
Okay, so I was able to purchase LED bulbs for the committee for 25 cents a piece. It was amazing. And I thought this thing was ending and I wouldn't be able to get any more. And I found out that was not true. I could get 2,000 bulbs for a quarter a piece, which was only $500. We hadn't voted on it. The clock was ticking again. And this time the year was running out. And rather than give back all of the money, we ended up getting some, we got permission from Abby to use $500, purchase 2,000 bulbs. And my idea on this was to replace, even when I was talking to Dick about this, he's like, why are you giving bulbs away to people that can afford bulbs? Why are you doing that? And that's not my plan. The plan was to trade bulbs. People that are using CFLs until they burn out are still only using bulbs that are 25 to 35% efficient. If they could turn them in for an LED bulb, now they have a 95% efficient bulb. And I was hoping our recycling center would recycle the CFLs and any incandescents that might come in. But I know CFLs can get recycled because Menards takes them in. It's just Daphne told me that our recycling center isn't doing that. So there's some loose ends on this plan to get these out. But even if this kind of falls through, if there's more demand at Mom, we still have these really inexpensive light bulbs that we could get to the Middleton Outreach Ministry. So, so some of the things that we need to talk about, you know, about the recycling. Maybe Angie knows. How do you recycle these old bulbs so that people can go to LEDs if they haven't? Or Kelly, did you talk to anybody at recycling to see if they could do it? Because maybe we could have a short-term recycling for the 2,000 trades, and or maybe they could extend it even past that 2,000 light bulb display or supply. Do you know?
Angie, try again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I have to do a little bit more research on finding out who could recycle those CFLs now. I know we went around and around a couple years ago trying to find someone out in the market who would take them from us at a reasonable price, and we were not successful doing that. I don't know if that's changed, and you know, maybe there's someone out there now who, you know, we could take them to, who would be kind of a resource for us, but it's something I'd have to do a little bit of research in. Spencer, do you remember when we were going through that, trying to find the bulb recyclers, and we couldn't even get people to call us back to take them?
No, I remember. I don't remember where, like, it was a challenge to do it. It seemed like who was the place who took our electronics?
File 13.
Seemed like File 13 for a little bit would be agreeable to it, but it didn't seem like they didn't want to.
So I can ask questions about that and get some information, but we did not have success with that in the past, and that's why we dropped it.
Okay. Dick? You're muted, Dick. Dick, you're muted. That's okay.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I was coughing before. I didn't want to bother anybody. My daughter is finishing up her graphic design degree at Madison College, and she is volunteering to work with us doing any kind of posters and social media stuff. We want to promote this program that Deb has started here with the 2,000 bulbs. So that's just an FYI. If we want any help doing this, she would just use whatever she does as part of her portfolio. And I've seen some other work she's done and it's just fantastic. So it would just be something we could use some help with to get this thing rolling. Second thing is just kind of a anecdotal thought. This last weekend, I was visiting my mother-in-law in South Dakota. She's in a subsidized housing unit and she pays for electricity, but every single bulb in her house is an incandescent. And I said something to her about changing them out and, you know, she didn't have the money or want to deal with it, whatever. She's 96. But I bet you there are a lot of low income people in Middleton that if we could figure out a way to identify them and say, we will replace your bulbs and maybe work with high school students and whatever to go there and take bulbs and replace them. And I think this 2,000 bulb thing that Deb was able, this is in addition to the 750 that Lisa took to Mom. So we have these bulbs and we should be trying to get them out in the community. It's the kind of program that really saves energy and helps people on low incomes save money on their utility bills. So I'd like to see us really make this a big effort starting this spring. And if we do it outdoors by the recycling center or other buildings, maybe working with Daphne to figure out how can we get students to help on this and whatever. But I'm excited that we have the opportunity to do something and helping low-income people. And just like Katie said earlier about there's low-income people that are still on fuel oil. There's lots of people that are still living in the 1960s and 70s as far as their energy usage. And anything we can do as a committee just to help them, even if it means giving them free stuff, I think that's working towards our overall goals and helping people's lives.
That's a good point. Kelly, could we do something at the senior center when it's open again? I mean, I know they have limited stuff going on there now, but.
Yeah, they don't have many people in now, but that would definitely be a place to have bulbs and collect bulbs back. I wonder if we could work with the school district more formally, like the city school district project where we, where classes have bulbs that they take home to their families, but then they bring back CFLs as a collection thing and do like a drive that lasts a week or something, just to put it on everyone's radar. That's a really good way to reach families is through the students.
Well, Daphne said that the green team at school, once COVID is kind of handled and they're back in and whatever, that they could probably do a project like that. So Daphne, do you have any updates on what you think about that?
Yeah, I absolutely think green team could help with that. But I think that our school's like closed for a while in terms of like letting people come or anything. So I think they're kind of strict about that, but green team would love to help once the school opens.
So, and
Should
I
be
think,
March 11th. I'm sorry, Angie, can you hold that? Because Kermit's got his hand raised. Kermit.
I think Chris had her hand up before me.
Oh, Chris isn't even showing on my screen here.
She was-
I did the physical hand thing. I didn't know about the.
She was doing old
Sorry,
school.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to let Angie know that Home Depot does say that they do CFL recycling. If you look on the Focus on Energy website, they do say that you can talk to Home Depot about CFL recycling. So depending on how if we would have a drive to bring in all the CFLs, we could maybe take something to them and they might be able to help recycle them properly.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe we can promote something or like give out coupons for cheap something at Home Depot, give them some recognition if they are willing to take our recycled bulbs. Kermit?
Yeah, I was going to comment one of my comments was along those lines that retailers that have sold CFLs or fluorescent tubes are supposed to, in Dane County anyways, take them back. I mean, basically receive for recycling, but they charge.
yes.
And that, I mean, right now, an LED bulb at 25 cents is less expensive than the recycling charge last I checked per bulb. And now whether we get a bulk rate discount, it's something to explore, but that is an issue, I think, especially in terms of trying to encourage low income people to adopt. If they have to pay money to throw something away, that is a disincentive. And so if we can do something, again, I think mom is a prime opportunity. If we could arrange for some kind of safe, secure drop-off container that the bulbs could be deposited in, that would be a nice way to do the exchange idea that Deb was describing and target the most prime audience, as Dick is suggesting, low-income people. Just one concern about using kids to bring them through the schools is that one of the reasons you can't just throw a CFL in the trash is because they're breakable, they're glass, and they contain mercury. And that's not the kind of responsibility I'd like to give elementary school kids. High school age, maybe that would work out, but younger than that, I'd be a little apprehensive about liability and other concerns that might come up with that. And I'll just say, I was in a meeting with Ellen Carlson, who is the executive director, and she was just talking about the great things they've been able to do. And she did specifically mention handing out LED bulbs.
Oh, that's great.
She didn't give credit. She didn't mention her name, but she did highlight that. So
Was it at the Middleton Equity Team meeting?
it was the Middleton Hub.
Oh, okay.
Bartlett Durand kind of convenes this group to talk about what's going on with COVID and the pandemic. And
okay, well, that's good that she mentioned us, or didn't mention us, but mentioned the bulbs. I'll see if we can get a mention sometime. Okay, I see the time is 1 minute till. So
I know, I want Daphne to have enough time to update. So the other thing I had on my list that we need to talk about, not tonight, but we need to handle this anyway, is what kind of data needs to be collected to show the success of the program? You know, there's got to be some sort of how many came in and what got traded out, or I don't know, but what kind of data do we need to show success? And then should there be a maximum number of LED bulbs per resident allowed? In other words, can you bring in 10 and get 10 LEDs, or should we limit it to a smaller number, or do we don't limit it at all?
Deb, would you be willing to put together a proposed answer to these questions? You know what I mean? Like a little one-page prospectus. This is what the light bulb exchange would look like, and we can discuss it and formalize it next time.
Can I work on that with Deb? Because I think I have some ideas that would be helpful.
That would be great.
Angie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
You bet.
Okay. And I see Andy's got his hand raised. Andy, do you have a question?
It's just a quick comment. I want to echo Kermit's idea talking about like a school recycling. I think I agree with Kermit that it could be dangerous for some students to do that, especially very young kids. But I'm thinking about if the possible school or district could have something like a recycling day that the parents and the students, they do that together. I think the main purpose is to put a seed in all of our students' mind, and we invest, you know, like we cultivate their mindset and bring up the awareness. I think that's a pretty important. I think a lot of parents would like to do this together with their kids. Just a suggestion or comments.
That is a good suggestion, Andy. Thank you for that. And I think to the extent that we could have representatives of this committee or the recycling center, maybe collecting these bulbs when the families bring them in, that would be a good way to publicize the work that we do and the resource that is available at the recycling center. So, okay, well, in the interest of time, I'm going to wrap up this discussion. Next time, Deb and Angie and Dick, if you can share something in advance for us to review and discuss some more and sign off on next time, that would be great. I'm going to make a motion that we extend the time for 15 minutes to allow for Daphne to give her school district school resolution update and also for us to discuss items for next time. Do I have a second? Dick seconds. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Those opposed? Not seeing any hands raised. Okay, so we'll go on for 15 minutes. Daphne, you're up.
Okay, I'll make it quick, but so we basically brought the resolution to the finance committee, and they were extremely supportive. I think there wasn't even a single person that had like an issue with the resolution. We kind of broadened the resolution, so it's more like 5 points instead of like the long list of 10, but it's more, but it's also still specific. We also, the only concern that one of the finance committee members brought up was that they said that a third of the school board would be turned over by the end of the year. So they didn't want to like tie their hands, like the future people's hands, into something that other people agreed on. But they unanimously passed the resolution to the school board. So this February 8th, the agenda committee will decide when to put the resolution on the school board's agenda. They decide when, whether it's going to be in February or March or whatever. So I'm waiting to hear back from Mrs. Ames on February 8th to hear when the school board will put it on their agenda and talk about it, basically. And if the school board, once the school board looks at it, they'll be able to decide whether or not to pass it or to put it off and wait another month or so while we fix some things and things. So that's all I have.
Thank you for that, Daphne. Kermit?
I just want to clarify, I'm looking at the website 100renewmcpasd.org. Is that the current version of the resolution, or are you dealing with a different version? And if so, could you share that with us?
Yes, I can definitely share that with, yeah, I should probably update it now. I'll do that right after the meeting. Yeah, it's but it's the same general gist of it.
Okay, but you shortened it, you said, from 10 action items to 5?
Well, it's the same action items, just combined into 5 main points. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because you had all kinds of good things in the original, so I was just hating to hear what you had to cut out, but if you just combine them, good job.
I have it open. I don't know if I can share my screen, but I don't know if that would be useful at all.
Or if you put the link in the chat.
Yeah, can you put the link in the chat to the new one, and we can each state that. Daphne, who told you that they didn't want to necessarily tie the hands of the incoming school board?
There was, I don't remember his name, but it was one of, I just remember he was old. That's all I have.
Well put.
Well, hey, don't lump us all in that group.
Yeah. Yeah, some of us older people were kind of grimacing at that deflection. Oh, let's not tie the hands. Deb.
Real quickly, maybe next month we can bring that up to Dane County Exec that school districts are all part of every community in Dane County, and maybe there's a target that they should get resolutions from everybody, and ask them how they could help us put some pressure on the school board or whoever to get it on the calendar even.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and we can all contact the school board members and candidates ourselves and voice our opinion. Dick? Dick, did you have a comment? You raised your hand. You're muted.
No,
now we can hear you.
I'm sorry. I had to do a little something and I stepped out for about 5 seconds.
Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, no, we were just talking about the school board and the reception that the finance committee gave to the resolution, and yet the disclaimer, the cautionary, well, you don't know if we want to tie the hands of the incoming school board, so we'll have to.
Well, I like the idea, keep pushing.
Yeah, so, okay, great. Thank you very much for that, Daphne. And Kelly, I'm going to turn it back to you to run through some of the things that we're carrying over to next time and other things that we can look forward to, like the Kathy Coons and Joe Parisi.
Yeah. So I have the Dane County Climate Action Plan discussion that will take, probably 30, 45 minutes. I just know we'll have a lot of questions for them, and it's important because they're both there and they're both important people and leaders. So we should budget a good amount of time for that. More on the work plan, probably an update on school resolution if we need to take any actions. And then also the Middleton Recycling Center was planning to attend and would really like to have a very brief discussion on increasing staffing hours there. They've been really swamped, and I think because of COVID, the center's getting used a lot more with boxes and recycling. And so they feel like they're having a hard time keeping up with staffing hours. And then Brad Hopwood, the operations manager, also wanted to present the idea of working with the committee this year on a poster and a communication strategy to help to stop people in Middleton dumping in our waterways, literally dumping trash into the conservancy lands. I guess the operations crew is constantly cleaning up a lot of trash in the waterways, and was hoping maybe we could help him with a poster and some communications that could be displayed prominently in the recycling center, since it's one place that a lot of people come through, but other places as well, to try to make it known that we're working on that issue. That might be something that Dick, your daughter, might even be able to help with some of the graphic design, perhaps, if she's interested in the water issue and the public lands. Anything else? That's what I have.
By the way, the Friends are taking over the kiosks, and that would be a great place to put a poster like that.
That would be good. I don't have anything for next time because we clearly have so much already on the agenda for next time, but at maybe the March meeting, I would like to start learning more about PFAS contamination, especially near the airport, because I know this is an issue with the Dane County Regional Airport because of the firefighting foams that the aqueous firefighting foams they use. And I know it's a growing problem throughout the country, actually, wherever they start to look for it, they find it. And I just read recently that they're finding it in the lakes here. So if it's in the lakes, it's probably elsewhere. And hearing all the concerns expressed about the airport and just, noise was the problem during the Plan Commission meeting, but I was a little surprised that nobody had mentioned the possibility that there might be contamination in the groundwater as a result of training, exercises, firefighting. So
that's something that I can maybe help with. I'm part of a work group with the DNR that's looking at waste disposal and treatment options for PFAS, but I do have access to a bunch of information on sources of PFAS, what's going on with our lakes and Starkweather Creek right now and out at the airport. So I can pull something small together for the next meeting.
well, like I said,
for a general.
Sounds like we have one presentation, 2 discussions to continue, and a recycling center presence. I don't know if they'll give a presentation, so we might not have time next month, Angie, but certainly in March I'd like to pick this up. Dick?
Yeah, I just like to, on this agenda item with Parisi and Kathy Coons coming, I just like to ask that we have plenty of time because there's a lot of questions that might come up. So I would think at least 45 minutes because I want to get at our RNG issue, and asking them, because now they've got the Dane County landfill injection port for regional natural gas so that the digesters can generate it and take it there. So I'd really like to have quite a wide discussion with them, because I think the county is going to be instrumental in a lot of things that we want to do as a community. So getting a chance to really think about some questions and issues, I would not want to be having our agenda item too short.
Sure. Kelly, how much time did they indicate they would speak?
I can't remember for sure. I think that Kathy Kuhn said it's generally a 30 to 45 minute total presentation. I mean, with including question answer, it's 30 to 45 minutes, but I have a feeling we would go over that.
Okay, I think so too. All right, well,
Yeah,
let's,
because I listened into the one at Pheasant Branch Conservancy the other night, and they spent quite a bit of time talking about it and a lot of generalities that we know about. So they're preaching to the choir in some ways, although it's good to get a full sense of the county action plan and where they're promoting it. But I think if we want to ask specific questions of how the county can help us, I think it's going to be beyond their normal time. So it'll be tough to finish within 45 minutes. I'm just telling you.
okay, we'll build that in. We'll,
Oh, I'm saying
Build
even an hour
that in.
maybe, but at least with some flexibility.
right, we'll build that into the agenda accordingly. Spencer, and then Kermit, you had your hand raised, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know the work plan is we're gonna want to talk about next time also. Guys, Lisa put together this great plan for us, and I mean summarized it, and then she had a memo in the notes ahead of time saying what we had wanted to take away from the conversation about what do we want to do, instead of saying we should do this, we should do this, we should do this, actually say I will do this, I will do that. So as we come into when it's on the agenda next, I think it's next time. If it's not, it's pushed to the next time. But come to the meeting with I would like to do this. I will work on this next time. I think it would just be helpful to further push Lisa's plan on there, just to read through it and be ready for it.
Thank you, Spencer. You saved me from having to say that. All right, Kermit.
And thank you, Spencer, for giving me something I can piggyback on, because basically I was saying, I'm concerned the work plan for 2021 isn't going to be starting until the
Mark.
second quarter, I mean, so I think we want to do whatever we can to front end load the process, at least to the extent we can, now that we're in the beginning of and so your idea, Spencer, is excellent, so that we can shift it to, these are if not the specific task, this is the area. I think I might nuance it a little bit just to allow that flexibility. And related to the work plan is also following up on the sustainability plan, because let's see, they were working on 27 to update the 2010 plan. We tackled it again in 2020 to update it to be a 2020 plan. And there too, we are sliding into 2021 and it's still not done and ready to go. And so I don't know where we can put another 10 pounds of potatoes in our 5-pound sack, but I don't want it to get left on the packing room floor. I think we need to keep that moving forward too. So I don't know what strategies we can have, or whether there's I mean, Lisa, you were volunteering to rewrite it completely, right? Was it maybe that's the way to go?
Starting March 1, I'll have time on my hands, so.
I-
All right, well, that's a good point and a good, Spencer, did you have anything else to
I
add?
was just gonna follow up on that point and say, we want to do this, Kermit. We want to do this, but who's gonna do it? That's where we have to step up and say, and I think Lisa said, I'm gonna step up and do this. What is your passion, Kermit, that you want to do, and say, I want to work on this, and let's just grab it and do it. I'm not trying to be rude or rough, but just like, let's do it.
Yeah, no,
Perfect.
I love the idea of more action, less planning. The whole point of the plan is to get us to act. I can't tell you how many plans I have written, and I'm telling my colleagues as I announce my retirement how thrilled I am at the prospect of being able to write a plan, or if someone else writes it, that's fine. But being able to work on a plan and actually see it implemented, because I've been working on radioactive waste management and transportation for decades, and some of it's gone forward and a lot of it is still just sitting there. So Kermit, one last thing. so
Well, I
don't
just,
have to
when
extend
you
it
say
again.
after March 1st, and now I just heard you mention retirement, is that the date?
My last day of work is February 26th.
Aha.
I'm retiring early to become a full-time volunteer,
Well,
professional volunteer.
Congratulations and thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I'm able to do it. And I'll also be spending a lot of time with my mother, who is a new Middleton resident, having decided to move in with me. So got to get her signed up to vote. She's moving from Illinois, so now her vote will actually count. So, all right, is there any other business for the good of the committee? Not seeing any. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Sorry we ran a little bit late, but I think it was a good meeting, a great discussion, and I'm super excited for next time. I can't wait to hear from Joe Parisi and Kathy Kuntz. So, all right, thanks everyone. Have a good week.